Kanji Kyoshitsu. So I got a lot of positive reviews from the last video, so I figured I'd go ahead and keep doing this series, even though we're probably going to be here for a while since we've got about 2,000 kanji to go through, and to write a 4 kanji per lesson, this could take a while. To answer one comment that I was getting a couple times from the last lesson, as per my usage of either romaji or furigana. As far as romaji goes, no. Like I said, straight up, no romaji. Truthfully, I hate romaji, and it's kind of widely accepted that if you're going to learn Japanese, you need to stop using romaji like as soon as you can, because it's just a hindrance. You'll get used to having it. It's not that hard to just learn hiragana and katakana, like I said last video. So honestly, just go do it, because I'm not going to be using romaji in this class. I only use romaji in Nihongo Shiki because it's a conversation class, and because I build it as such, I feel like it's a helpful thing. Honestly, I would prefer if I didn't use romaji in Nihongo Shiki, but I'm willing to let it slide there. Because this is a writing class, not so much. I'm going to request that you learn the basic Japanese alphabets. See, on the subject of furigana though, that was a reasonable thing. I had them last time, you just probably couldn't see them because, it was hard to see the kanji themselves, so the furigana next to it, probably even harder. So this time, I'm trying a new thing where I just wrote some stuff out on paper. I'm going to take pictures of that, walk you through it with a voiceover. We're going to see how that goes. So let me know again in the comments this time around what you think of this method, and if it works better for you, if it's too boring, just having still images for most of the time. So for this lesson, like I said, there's going to be another 4 kanji, and then after that, we're going to go over the how to write each of them, which I will be using this chalkboard for. There's no getting around it. And then after that, there's 2 exercises to do to help test what you've learned. So, everyone, ganbatte ne.
So let's talk about these 4 kanji for this week's lesson. Our first one here is the kanji for king or ruler. And you're all very, very lucky because it only has 1 possible reading. So anytime you see this kanji, it is going to be this reading, no questions. A little later in this episode, we'll get to the balance for this kanji's lack of readings. And I'm apologizing in advance. Anyway, this kanji's 1 reading is O. So every time you see it, just think O. So the examples, starting from the right, we've got Okoku, which has the kanji for king and then country. So together they make the word kingdom. The next one, Oji-sama, is the word for prince. You've got the kanji for king and child, and then sama there is the Japanese honorific for nobility, typically. So you get young prince. And the last one over here is Homura no ni naru, which is to become the home run king. I'm actually not certain at all how often this phrase is used, but it's in the book. The next one here, before we start, I'm aware that I horribly messed up drawing that violin and its sound holes, but I was sort of in a hurry to finish this before I had to, go do stuff for work. So yeah, it's a really crappily drawn violin, and I'm sorry to all violin players out there. Anyway, this is the kanji for sound and noise. So it's got 3 readings again, like a lot of our others. The onyomi is actually on. As one might expect, the word onyomi, which means sound reading literally, uses this kanji to help express it. So that on is this on reading right here. So the onyomi is on. And then for its kunyomis, you've got oto and ne. A bit of advice, in a kanji compound that is ending with this kanji for sound, you'll probably use the reading of oto. In a kanji compound that is beginning with the kanji for sound, you'll probably use ne. You'll see that in some of our examples. Also, if you're just using the kanji by itself, like you're referring to the noun of a noise, you'll be using oto in pretty much guaranteed sense. So moving into our word examples, on the right we've got ashioto, which means footsteps. The kanji are for feet or leg, and noise, so literally the sound of feet. The one in the middle, ongaku, is music, which is probably one that a lot of you already knew. The last one over here on the left is subarashi neiro. This neiro would literally be read as like sound color, but those two kanji together mean like the tonal quality of a voice or instrument. And then subarashi is, you know, great, splendid, wonderful, whatever. So, you've got that. Next kanji, this is the one that has the readings that balance out for, you know, only having that one. This is the kanji for below, down, and under. But you'll also see it used in a couple of random contexts, like if you're familiar with the word kudasai, which is, you know, the word for request in Japanese. Like if I want bread, I'd say, you know, pan o kudasai. That kuda in kudasai also uses this kanji for below. So, yeah, just bear with me. It's, thankfully, its onyomis are pretty small, pretty confined. You've got ka and ge. And then the kunyomis, you've got shita is the first one, which is, you know, probably the one that you'll find yourself using most often in conversation. It's the one most people associate to this kanji, etc. Moving on, there's shimo, there's kuraru and kurasu, there's sageru and sagasu, and these are in parentheses out to the bottom, these two different versions, because Japanese has transitive and intransitive verbs. And if you want more information on those, you're best off like Googling that or Wikipediaing that or something, because it's a grammar concept not unique to Japanese. But yeah, in Japanese, to make the transitive and intransitive, you use this sort of e sound and a sound. So yeah, that'll be a fun thing to cover later in a Nihongo Shiki or something. Moving on, you've got orosu and oriru. And then lastly, you've got kurasaru. Okay, moving on to our word examples down at the bottom. You've got the first one over there on the right is chikashitsu, which is the word for basement or like a cellar. That first kanji is often used in words relating to like earth or ground. And then so you've basically got an underground. And then that shitsu is the word for room. As in this series title song, Meari no Kanji Kyoshitsu, that Kyoshitsu's shitsu is the same one as here. It's the word for room. Moving on, you've got gekko, which is like the end of the school day, which can best be explained by comparing a school day to like a hill. You've got the morning is the bottom of the hill, then you go up it, you hit the peak at midday, and then once you've gone down the hill, you've got the end of the school day, if that helps you remember this at all. The third phrase we've got over here is kawashita ni kuraru, which is to go down river. That first kanji there is the kanji for river. Then you've got this below kanji used 2 times in this phrase. Kawashita, specifically referring to a, location down river. And then this kuraru, meaning the verb to go down, to flow down, to descend, that sort of thing. Last one on the far left, you've got the phrase ki no shita ni koshi o orosu. So that whole thing together means to sit down beneath the tree. That first kanji there, ki, is the kanji for tree. I'm sure a lot of you probably already knew that. Ki no shita ni altogether means underneath the tree, beneath the tree. And then koshi o orosu is a phrase meaning to sit down. Alright, and last kanji, back to a simple one, only got 2 readings. It's the kanji for fire or flame. Its onyomi is ka, and its kunyomi is hi. Moving straight in then to the examples. On the far right, you've got hanabi, which means fireworks. These are the kanji for flower and fire. So it's actually a word that I actually kind of like a lot in kanji because I think it's cool. In the middle is the word kaji, which is, literally referring to a fire. Like if a building burst into flame, you'd say it's a fire. When we have a fire drill at school, the alarms will go like, wee-oop, kaji des, kaji des. So it's using this word here. Last one on the left is hi o kesu, which is to put out a fire. in this case, it's not using that kaji because it's referring to two different things. Kaji would be, like I said, a rather large fire, like a building is on fire. This hi okesu over here is referring to any fire, like a match, a bonfire, small flames. Could be a big flame, I guess, but it's a very generic term. The verb here, kesu, is the verb that's used for to erase, to get rid of, to delete, to put out, anything like that.
Now for the part that I am going to need a whiteboard for, talking about how to write it very specifically. Alright, let me find some white chalk here. Our first one over here was o, basically, or king. You'll have the top stroke there. You'll then have the middle stroke all the way down to the bottom. You'll make your middle stroke, which should be just shorter than the top stroke. And then your bottom stroke should be about the same length as your top one. Maybe a little longer than your top one. So in terms of sizes, go short, medium, long. You're going to do it that way. All of these have very defined, like, stop your pen here. There's no, like, swishy marks, just stops. Next up, we've got the kanji for sound, or on, as you might read it normally. So the first mark is this top little diagonal slant up here. You've then got mark across. You'll add two more towards the ends, the other downwards marks, and then the bottom bit of this top radical. Next one, you've got the radical for day, the bottom half down here, and that's done in our normal formula for boxes. Line 1, over, down, middle line, bottom line. And I'm sorry, this is actually kind of out of proportion because it's kind of hard to actually write it slowly for demonstration purposes. Really, about that is the sort of balance you're looking for, about equal, half and half. So yeah, please just ignore the fact that this day radical is ridiculously big. It's just a thing about writing it slowly. Next one, you've got shita, or underneath, below something. It's going to be hard to write. Let's come from over here. All right, you'll start with the top mark here, completely straight. You've got the long mark right there. And then you have up here, just like a centimeter or so below your top mark, you'll make that downward mark. And in reality, like, if I was writing this with a calligraphy brush, like, this would just barely connect to the main branch of this kanji. But, that's kind of here nor there. This is handwriting, so don't worry too much about it. Our last one here is fire, and it's going to be basically the only one of these to use any sort of swishy bit. So fire gets written, you'll first write these two bits on either side. So you've got here and here. You'll note that they're at slight diagonals both times you write them. Then, to write the radical for person, you'll start up here in the middle, and you'll come down to the left. Maybe not write it quite as far as I just did. I was mainly trying to illustrate that this left one here is that kind of swish. So like you just kind of let your pen drag a little bit. You don't have to be fancy with it. But just like, instead of stop, just go like, you can kind of see a bit of the difference in those marks. To make the last bit, you come here from the middle, and down, stop. So next up, let's move on to some of the exercises. Again, we're going to go back to that, like, other written form. I'm not going to use the board.
Moving into our exercises, first one over here on the far right. All of these are to write or just, think in your head what the proper reading for these kanji should be, given their contexts. So first one over here on the right, you've got 110 no lion, which translates to lion, the king of beasts. This hyakuju no something something is a phrase that literally means king of beasts, the king of beasts. And then, of course, lion is lion. Second one, you've got ga furu, ga suru. So it's, one of their cute little rhyming phrases that they like. But it means when the rain falls, it makes a sound. And of course, rain was a kanji from last lesson, so here's a hint. We'll be testing kanji in future lessons that you've already covered. So you've got ga furu, ga suru. The third one is pu o kaku, which literally means to write music notes. The word up there, that pu, is the word for a music note, and then kaku is the verb for to write something. Number 4, sorry it's gotten a little squished in over there with number 5. Anyway, number 4 is read, ichiban no ji o yomu. So this phrase means read the bottommost letter. That ichiban you'll remember from last lesson means, most, essentially. Then you've got the kanji for under, so bottommost. And then the kanji there, ji, is the kanji for character or letter. And then yomu is our verb for to write. So ichiban no ji o yomu. Number 5, the last one, machi de o tsukeru. So to light a match. So you've got tsukeru, which is a verb for to light in this case. You've got the kanji for fire. And then machi is, of course, match. So go ahead and take a second. Try to fill that out on your own. Alright, and moving to the answers. So our first one, hyakuju no o lion. Of course, that one should be easy. There's only one possible reading for that kanji. The next one, you've got ame ga furu, oto ga suru. So hopefully you use the right oto there. The third one, you've got onpu o kaku. So in this case, we're using on. So we're using its kunyomi. Number 4, you've got ichiban shita no ji o yomu. So, like I said, most of you are probably familiar with using shita. It's the one you're going to see a lot. Next one, number 5, you've got machi de hi o tsukeru. So, because it's sort of a general, all-purpose kind of small fire, not a fire that's actually going to cause some damage, you're using hi. Okay, and the last exercise for this one, it's the easy one. You just have to write the proper kanji that goes in there. So number 1 on the far right, you've got o-sama tokerai. So this phrase means serving the king. So o-sama tokerai. The second one, you've got shita no heya kara oto ga kikoete kuru. So this whole phrase means I can hear sound coming from the room below. Shita no heya kara is the phrase of from the room below. You've got oto ga kikoete kuru, which means can hear sound coming, blah blah blah. So shita no heya kara oto ga kikoete kuru. Last one on the far left, roka ni shoukas Last one on the far left, you've got roka ni shoukagi ga sonoete aru. So this whole phrase, the English is actually far longer than the Japanese. There is a fire extinguisher installed in the hallway. So roka is the word for hallway, and then shoukagi is the word for fire extinguisher. That should be a hint as to what kanji you're supposed to use. And then the phrase sonaete aru means there has been installed, or like it's an interesting, it would be a much longer explanation grammatically as to why aru is here. But sonaete would be, to has been installed in a place. So best of luck with that. Take your time to write or think it through. And moving on to the answers. Of course, this first one is the kanji for king, because it's a straight noun, and it's got o, so, pretty simple. Next one, of course, the room below, so use the kanji for below. And then you can hear sound, so use the kanji for sound, very straightforward. This last one, He also uses the kanji for under. Like I said, you're going to see it used in a couple of places where you might not expect it. This is one of those. The word for hallway uses the kanji for under as its ka. And then, of course, last one, fire extinguisher. You're going to need the word for fire in there somewhere.
Hopefully you guys did pretty okay with those exercises. Again, if you've got any questions or comments or complaints, please leave them in the comments below. I promise you I read them, and I will do my best to address any concerns and questions that you have. Now, as your reward for finishing, I'll explain. My school had an assembly this morning, and all the students had to sing this song. And I now teach in an elementary school, so I absolutely, under penalty of law, cannot show you any video or pictures of my students, because that's the quickest way to a lawsuit, both of privacy issues and possibly of pedophilia charges if they really wanted to press it far, which they would. So yeah, I can't show you any of my students, but I thought that their singing was really cute, and I thought the song was really pretty. So your reward for finishing is this part of this song. So please enjoy. See you next time.